Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from a fan's perspective on IndyCar and other forms of motorsports. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
How you been? I haven't seen you in 12 hours.
Yeah, it's been a short-lived. It's not been too long that we were just hanging out together on an airplane.
Yeah, at the US GP for 3 days, and then flew home super early this morning. And then I am actually working not at a mortuary, but at a casino hotel in
looks like a morgue.
Central Michigan here.
Yeah, with anybody that's on YouTube.
Curtains behind me.
Yeah, we're at COTA.
Yeah, we had a good time, didn't we?
We had an awesome time at COTA. So good.
Hey, before we start, we did have an awesome time. We had an interesting time, which you always think it's funny because I talk to everybody everywhere we go, when we go to the Grand Prix and when we go, wherever it is that we go. We're at the airport.
We always find a random.
Always find a friend. And we found a friend. So
we
Alex, did. From San Antonio, he joined us on the bus just for the ride over to the track, and he ended up staying with us all day on Saturday. So it was a lot of fun. So yeah. Alex, if you're listening, thank you. We enjoyed meeting you and spending time with you there. It's good to spend time with
It was awesome. I was a little bummed he didn't show up for Sunday. So yeah. I think maybe we scared him off after Saturday, after he was with us all day Saturday.
Yeah.
Potentially. Yeah. Even though he had a plan that he wasn't going on Sunday. So he was going to watch it from his couch. So hopefully he did. And had a good time. But no, he was a good dude. Good to hang out with him. And it was funny because we were on the bus, right? And I was sitting next to my son, who also joined us for the COTA Grand Prix. And, when you're on those buses, this is a very nice coach, right? Sitting next to my son, and Dan is by himself. He came, there was three of us, and sits next to this gentleman. And I look at my son and I go, watch. Dan is classic for talking to people, striking up conversations. We will have a friend for the rest of the day. I bet him right there on the bus in the morning, and it happened all day. I was right. It's just how it works. It doesn't matter what we're doing. If we're going to a race or for biking, whatever it might be, we always find randoms, and it's very cool.
We do.
Very cool to have, that's how you make friendships with others around the US and elsewhere and outside of the States.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So fresh off our trip, Tim, what stands out to you? I'll give you mine, but I want to know well, first of all, can I address this hat? We're a podcast first and foremost, but
breast cancer awareness
on YouTube. It's a pink and blue hat. At first glance, it looks like a breast cancer awareness target hat, but it's actually a Racing Point hat from the outlet booth at Circuit of the Americas. This is the old Lance Stroll hat before it became Aston Martin Racing.
Wow.
Before his dad took it over. They had a lot of them.
I had to shop at the outlet. It was so expensive there that, when I went to the outlet and saw that hats were only $30, which is like normal price for IndyCar hats, I was like, I got to get one. Otherwise, they're $80-$90. And so I had my eye on
unless you want a bucket hat, which is $120. That's what I wanted. I didn't get one.
Or a shirt with a collar was $130. It was crazy. The pricing was out of control. So I found this one and I thought, you know what? It's cool. Maybe my daughter might want to wear it. Maybe I might want to wear it. So I put it on, and the funny thing is, listeners, is that I went by myself to the outlet. I said, you know what? I'm going to go by myself. Everybody's sitting in their seats. And I'm going to show up with a different hat on and see how long it takes for somebody to actually notice. And it took like all of 2 seconds.
Seconds.
So I'm wearing it on the podcast. So if you're not watching on YouTube, you're not going to see it. But I kind of like it. And what did you tell me when I brought it back?
I don't remember.
You said I wouldn't wear that hat in a million years.
Lance Stroll hat. So, and then the guy wearing the Aston Martin shirt in front of us turned around and looked. See what it was, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, dude."
Yeah.
So, is costs one of the first thing that kind of strikes you when you think about our weekend at Circuit of the Americas?
I think it's three things, and these might not be in the right order. It's wind, dust, and cost, and there's one more, number of people. I think those are the four things that kind of stand out to me going to the race.
Yeah.
There's a lot that stands out, honestly. There's a lot of different things that happen. I think just how the cars sound, that was startling to me. And I think for you as well, just the different noises that they make versus what we had become accustomed to when you had the V10s, right, that were out there. And we saw
that was your last Formula One race, right? Was USGP at Indy?
Yes.
With the V10s?
Indy. Yes. Super loud, super whiny, if you want to call them whiny. But
so this is my second USGP with this current Formula engine. So the engine noise wasn't that surprising to me, but I don't want to say off-putting, but it's definitely quiet. Even when you get 20 going by you right at the start, it's
you can still hear the PA talking while they're going by. And I'm like, that's unreal. When you're used to the IndyCar and you're used to, V10s, and you can't hear a thing, right? It's just rattling in your ear. Now, in this instance, they were super, super quiet. And even when we were in turn one, almost like they had no noise because they're already off the accelerator, on the brake. Yes, they would accelerate out, but they're far enough away from you that the noise was minimal.
We were sitting primarily, well, for race day, we sat in that 4, 5, 6 complex, the S's, right? So when Mario Andretti and I believe it was Pato O'Ward were doing the hot laps in the old McLarens, one was a V10, one was a V8, we could hear them screaming up the front straight. I mean, clearly hear them. And then when the modern Formula One car, today's Formula One car was going up there, you couldn't. Yeah,
it was like almost like same level. I was licking my chops. It was like a brisket sandwich in front of me, which we ate a lot of pork and brisket and barbecue. And it was like right in front, and you could just hear, like you just mentioned, it was almost like music to your ears. And then you couldn't even hear the modern F1 car go down that front straightaway.
No,
not at all.
No. Yeah, definitely different.
Yeah, totally different.
Wind, you mentioned wind and dust. It was windy all weekend. It was warm, thankfully, right? Because we're coming from Michigan, which fall has fallen on Michigan. So it was nice to be in the warm weather. It was windy though, and it was very dusty, which is a 180 from the last time I was there in 2018, where it was just it was a mud bowl. Yeah, and it was I was covered in mud from knees to ankles. I mean, it was just covered in mud. So it was, what do I like better? I couldn't tell you the one because I was filthy.
Yeah, I can imagine though, because it was just dirt. It wasn't like there was grass, and it was just dirt. So if it was raining, it would have been really disgusting. Yeah. So, but those are the things that sort of stood out to me. And price, cost, right?
That's what I was going to say is I want to talk about cost. So you talked about like the gear, right? You generous dad, and this was your son's first Formula One race, and it was fantastic. I appreciate you guys letting me tag along to that race, and
wouldn't have it any other way.
I appreciate that. And of course, generously, your son got a hat and he got a shirt and all that, and it was probably as much as what you bought for the whole family at Indy, right? All that gear that you bought at Indy, probably the same.
Yeah, except for that sweatshirt at Indy. That sweatshirt was really expensive, but if we would have gone in with a jacket or a sweatshirt at COTA, it would have been really, really good. I think they're a couple $100 a piece for a sweatshirt or something.
Yeah, like crazy. I said, I just silly, just to be kind of, unusual. I like those bucket hats. They don't look great on me. I got a big round face, but they were $120.
Incredible.
I might have sprung for one of those at 50 or 60, but $120.
I was surprised you
I didn't buy anything.
Yeah,
I didn't buy anything. I had my Ferrari shirt from the last time. Wore that. I had a red, Under Armour, shirt for, like a loose fitting T-shirt on Saturday or whatever. Supporting for Ferrari. And I know I wasn't the only Ferrari guy there, screaming for Max. My guy was out. Right. Sainz was, of course, knocked out in that first turn. We'll talk about that. But cost stands out to me. Number one, the number of people. Number two, you and I have gone to Indianapolis for many, many years.
Yep.
And Indianapolis on race day gets a couple 100,000 people.
I think it's 300.
So, okay, 250, let's call it.
Yeah, let's
right?
call it split the
Tim,
difference.
I don't feel anywhere near as crowded or, in the cattle corral, like we did this weekend. Anytime we wanted to go somewhere, right? If we wanted to go to a different part of the track, or when we were coming in or when we were leaving or whatever it was, you were just right.
Nose to tail.
On top of another person at all times. I mean, you were just packed in there. And then where we sat, which of course we got general admission tickets, which further proves what a tremendous value IndyCar is.
Yeah.
But you were always on top of folks, right? There was guys that were sitting behind us for the race yesterday, where we had kind of put our chairs down and we were sitting. Tim, their feet were like under my chair. They were so close.
I saw that.
Every time they moved, they bumped my chair or whatever else it was. And they sat in a spot that was like, there's no way anybody's going to sit there, between us and the people behind us that were there in the morning, and between us and the people those guys, right? The bachelor party guys that were sitting in front of us. You'd be crazy to sit in that little spot. And somebody did.
It was like a postage stamp, and just sat right there. But people were just trying to get a vantage point. Everybody paid the same amount, ton of money. They tried to get a vantage point. Talk about quali. Is that what they call it in Formula One? Quali?
Yeah.
So talk about quali. We went to quali and we went to turn one, and we couldn't even find a spot to even see the cars. It was so busy, which was a little disappointing, right? That it was just packed to the gills. I guess if you had a seat the stands, you got your reserve spot, and so you don't have to worry about it. But with GA, it was tough. And you had mentioned they put in more stands from years past in sections that used to be GA. Good for them that they can, fill all those stands, but it took away a little bit of the vantage points that we were looking to do in the S's. Yeah,
exactly right. Where I sat in 18, which was general admission, is now a large grandstand. And so we were kind of, the general admission folks that were sitting in the S's were kind of compressed into a little smaller spot. You had a crane on the right, which was a partially obstructed view. Yeah. And then you had the bridge on the left. And so, you had you could see it through, like I say, it is kind of partially obstructed, but you're looking at small cars on track that look kind of small. These are not small cars, but they look small on track. They're going by very quickly. So it's like anything could happen and you'd miss it just in that one instant where he's behind the boom for the tractor. So I'm not complaining, just saying, right? We're IndyCar fans, and this is what our fans' perspective was on attending the race, where you had 440,000 attendees over the course of a weekend, which I think is just insane. That's a crazy number.
I think the other thing is all the fans were super friendly and kind, and everybody was pretty cordial. I know you had the one people that their feet kind of went under you, but they were sliding down the hill. They're trying to get a vantage point. But we talked to others as well that were at the track, and some that were VIP guests that ended up coming out to the stands and coming out to the general admission area just to see what else was going on. Because, I didn't know, I found out while I was there that, the VP pass gets you access to the garage, but he didn't have a seat in a stand or in a suite that he could actually see the race. So when you're in the garage, you can only see what happens in the garage. And he was a guest of the Haas team. And, so he's like, I just came out here to see what was going on. And he was looking at my wristband, which I don't have on anymore, but I had a wristband. He said, what kind of access does that give you? And I talked to him a little bit, and he had a VIP badge. I said, what kind of access does that give you? And that's when we talked about what he was doing there and all the good stuff that he came in all the way from LA. So super friendly people. And then other people chimed in the area. So overall, there was just a lot of people, a lot of interest, right? You got to think of Drive to Survive and what it's done for that series. And it's huge. And, sometimes they put on a good show when it comes to the actual stuff on the track, if you will. And I thought it was a good race overall. saw a lot more than I expected to see when it came to race time, and a lot of different things that happened during the race.
Yep. I enjoyed the race. I haven't had a chance to look at it on DVR yet. Normally that's what I shoot for whenever I see these things live, because, you don't get a great vantage a lot of times. You don't really get the commentary. You don't get to see a lot of things. But we were lucky enough where, like you said, the cars are not so loud that you can't hear the PA. So you could hear some things. I had trouble hearing when they were trying to play like the in-car audio.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear any of that. So, but you could hear the commentary, and the commentary was the speed. I can't remember the name of the show. It's Bob Varsha's on there. It's the one that's on Sirius XM. And it
was both of them. Okay.
Commentary.
I didn't know it was that. Okay. I didn't know it was that whole crew. I knew it was Varsha, but I didn't know the other guy.
Yeah. And it's, and so it was good that they were on there. So you could kind of follow along and hear what was going on there. So at least that was good. I thought the race was good. Tim, we talked about it quite a bit, was this move that, Verstappen had to stop to cover Lewis Hamilton's stop, and Red Bull historically has the best stops in the business.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody better. And they had a bad stop. A crazy left front. I could not believe that. The crowd was going insane. Just insane. Yeah. And
I think everybody wanted some drama, right? You got to bring some drama into the race. Right. And they brought that drama through that, which was sort of caused by all the different accidents that happened, right? The accidents happened. We had the safety car out. And so people were pitting and doing different things. And it was good. So, it made it very interesting.
Yeah. Max comes back out. He's behind Hamilton, well behind Hamilton. And he's now has to chase him down.
Yeah, about 5 seconds.
About 15 laps to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't certain that was going to happen. And he just kept chewing away. If you're Red Bull, you obviously are validated in how good your car has been this year. They took the Drivers' Championship. They took the Constructors' Championship this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Drivers' Championship last weekend. So did they need a little extra validation? Not necessarily. But on the flip side, if you're Mercedes, who brought a nice update package to the USGP, and we're really hoping to maybe I think they would be hoping to grab that second best team on the grid this year over Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
I think shows that they still got a lot of work to do. Because Max 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3, 2, and then ends up finishing, 2.5 seconds ahead.
Yeah. Just drives right by him down the straightaway. Yep. So it just tells you the top end speed. Obviously there's DRS, but at the end of the day, he just kept chewing away. He was
good everywhere. Yeah. The cars look different. We were in the S's, right? So we got to see a very technical section where you could gauge the difference between how the Mercedes was coming through there, how the Red Bull was coming through there, and how the Ferrari was coming through there.
Mm-hmm.
And Max just looked stronger.
Yeah. And even on Friday, when we were looking at practice in turns 18 and 19, you were mentioning how smooth the Ferrari looked going through there.
Yeah.
In comparison to the other cars. Even, I don't think at that point we saw Red Bull out there. We only saw them on Saturday because we were a little late getting there Friday. But anyway, just from that over the Haas cars going through there, they just look good, but they can't put a race together to save their lives. So over the long haul with the tires, I think the tire drag is just too much for the Ferraris to keep up. So to your point, when you look at, what Mercedes has done and what they've done over the last, at least this last race, they outperformed Ferrari when it came to finishes. So, that second place is, I guess, still in line for, one of those teams to grab.
Yeah. As I mentioned, Max and Red Bull, Drivers' Champion and Constructor Championship. Constructor Championship is a big deal. It's where all the money is. That's what this is about. It helps continue to feed the machine. And it's not as if Red Bull is at a shortage of money or sponsorship, of course, but it helps feed that machine. And that's something that's there. So we'll see how that goes. had kind of a thought that maybe there was potential to harm attendance, live attendance or TV, given that the championship is over. Do you think that that's going to have anything to do with that?
Maybe TV a little bit. I think when you look at what's left on the circuit, I think everybody's already has their tickets. They're already ready to go. How early did we book this? We booked this way in advance. So from that perspective, you've already got your tickets, you've already got your plane, your airfare, everything. So you're going. I don't know what that's going to do come next year, but next year's a whole new year. So I don't think it's really going to have a huge impact on that front. Maybe TV ratings a little bit. People might start to tune out, but it seems to have a real loyal fan base at this point, and there's a ton of people that are interested. And some people just go for the entertainment. If you look at what happened at COTA, every evening there was some type of concert, whether it was Ed Sheeran, Green Day, there were others, pretty big names going up on stage, and people love it. I wish you had that much energy at the other IndyCar events. I think you have it at Indianapolis, right? The pageantry, everything that goes on with Memorial Day, I think it's more, to me, it's more specialer, however you want to put that, than what took place at COTA pre-race, right? The funny thing is there's
just another race.
Or driver starts your engines. Yeah, it's just another race. No flyover.
No flyover. And there was one on the schedule, right?
There was one on the schedule, so something happened with that. There were planes flying over all the time from the airport there, but it wasn't a flyover. And even fans were just inquiring about it. They were asking each other, like, what's happening on this front? So I felt like leading up, it kind of dragged and it wasn't super exciting, but we're IndyCar fans, right? I enjoy F1 and wanted to go and check it out again. So I don't know. Do you have anything that from advice for fans going there maybe next year or to any Formula One event based on what we saw?
Pack your patience. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You're not getting in there very quickly. You're not getting out very quickly. You're not getting around very quickly.
Yeah.
Just be patient and enjoy the time there. I mean, you may or may not be back anytime soon. Might as well enjoy it.
Yeah. That's what we did.
And
right?
That's really all it is. We did our best. We really did. This was nothing like when I was there in 2018. We parked on site. We had general admission. We had no problems finding a spot. We were not that smashed in. Food wise, food at venues like this are always high anyway. It didn't really matter, but I don't drink, so I didn't have any of that to worry about. But like I said, just pack your patience, know where you're going, and temper your expectations in terms of if you're going general admission like we did.
Yeah.
Because you'll just have to do your best and enjoy the atmosphere and everything that comes across. So kind of back to the race, good race. We both agree on that. We had a couple of moments, particularly with Fernando Alonso and future teammate Lance Stroll. That Lance Stroll. And some penalties issued after that. What happened is, Tim, how did you see it over and over and over again until you finally understood?
You're talking the incident between the two of them?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to see the replay because it was on the board, and then we were driving back to our place in order to catch a plane the next day. And I just wanted to see the replay to make sure I thought that I saw what I thought I saw, which was Lance moving over and causing that incident. I still think there could be more room left, but at the end of the day, you can't move on a straightaway. I totally get it. It's a penalty
even
handed
slightly
down to Lance. Yeah, I get it. You're going super fast. They're open wheel cars. You touch wheels, it launches somebody. It could have got really, really bad. Luckily, it didn't. And even Alonso continued on after flying in the air, right? Front wheels up. I'm sure the back wheels were partially up. And even you mentioned he was steering while in the air, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, you can't make that move. And, shame on Lance for trying to defend the move at the end of the day, because if you look at the replay, whether it's from Alonso's or Lance's perspective, he's just moving the wheel.
Yeah. Can't do that.
Nope.
So you got a couple of penalties there. Two very different reasons for penalties. You got Lance Stroll for moving on the straightaway, causing that accident. In fact, severe enough, the stewards have given him a 3 grid penalty for the race in Mexico this coming weekend. Alonso has a penalty, 30-second penalty, which pushed him way back down in the field for a very different reason. And this was a protest that was lodged by the Haas team. And their rationale for this was Kevin Magnussen had been black flagged, or the black and orange flag, for losing the mirror in a previous race, where Alonso's mirror came off. It was actually sitting on that straightaway for a while, through the balance of the race.
Yep.
And so that's why the stewards deemed that Alonso's car was
30
whatever,
seconds seems like
right?
a lot.
Seems like a lot. And it seems to me like if they would have penalized Magnussen in previous races for something similar, I don't know why this went unnoticed during the USGP. So
it's bizarre to me.
Kind of so it seems that more recent news suggests that Alpine is counter protesting and trying to, I think, get that back straight.
Yeah,
so
I like some of the perspective that, hey,
mm-hmm.
No fault to Alonso, right, in this incident, and then at the end of the day, he gets penalized because he's got an unsafe car. Yeah. But at the end, you can't have debris falling off your car. If it goes into someone's cockpit, it can cause great harm. So you got to come down, but you got to come down during the race and not be selective.
Something like that, for sure.
Yeah, it's like they showed it on the monitor. Even we saw it in the stands that it was rattling and moving around and not safe. And at that point, you got to throw the flag and say you got to bring them in and
we saw it on the replay when the thing came off.
Yep.
Also, Haas protested the finish of Checo Perez because he had a missing wing end plate. At the end of the day, the FIA didn't think that was an issue, so they dismissed that one. That was a big deal.
In that instance, it's not flapping and nothing else is coming off. It's pretty stable, so drive around with it. I love the Checo fans, by the way.
Oh man, there was nothing like. Can you imagine what Mexico would be like?
Oh, it would be so much fun.
Yeah,
it was.
I've
been walking around my house today chanting Checo, and my son, who was with us, right, it was like, Dad, can you knock it off? But it's stuck in my head. It was so fun. Whether it was turn 1, whether it was turns 4, 5, or 6, or in 18, you heard them chanting and having a great time. It was like a party. I loved it. It was so fun.
It was awesome. They had that standee.
Oh,
right? We were afraid to bring in 2 bottles of water, and there was this family that was walking in with this life-size cutout of Sergio Perez, which was just awesome.
Oh, it was so. And you know what? The sun was so intense that Checo became the sun blocker for that.
Yes.
Individual.
Yeah, she had him kind of draped over it.
Draped over the top of her.
Yeah.
Hey, use what you can to stay cool in those environment over there.
Yeah. Tim, did you see that ESPN has renewed for 3 years to continue to carry without commercial interruption the Formula One races? With some new programming to take place on ESPN Plus. So we'll see what that looks like. But
I did hear that. I heard there was a press conference while we were there. Whether I think it happened on Saturday that they announced that, maybe it was Friday. I don't know. It was a whirlwind, but that's a good deal without commercial too, huh? So Mothers is stepping up for another 3 years. We believe.
Somebody. I don't know. I didn't see anything to suggest who that was, but 3-year deal. Forbes suggests it's somewhere between 75 and 90 million.
Wow.
Which is a tremendous amount of money. They do average. Did you know that you're looking at the notes, obviously, because I share with you the notes before we go to air here. So
they're right.
Is that number surprising to you? So just for the listeners, it's this year, it's on average, it's about 1.2 million viewers per race. Is that number surprising to you?
Here in the US? Not after going to the race. Man, there's so many people. So no, I guess.
Did you think that was higher? Because I did. I expected that number to be higher.
No, I didn't expect it to be any higher than that.
Yeah,
that seems about right. But it was 950 last year.
Yep. About 950 last year. So
It's
obviously a growth
jump.
Trajectory. Yeah. It's a decent number.
Mm-hmm. And
200
frankly, the
million
races have
viewers
not been that competitive.
globally.
Yeah.
200 million viewers globally.
200 million on average.
Yep.
That's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
Just shows you the pull they have, man.
Yep.
Good for them.
Bigger than soccer.
It's got to be the biggest it's ever been.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Biggest this has ever been anyway.
By far. Yeah.
Keep doing things like these penalties and these dropping people back and, not letting people race and finishing your championship with 4 seasons. But we'll see how it continues to drive viewership. Yeah. But, that remains to be seen. Hey, go ahead.
I'm glad they threw some safety cars. We're used to safety cars, and
we needed that. Yeah,
in IndyCar, so that was good to bunch the pack up, and it really got you could feel the energy change in the crowd when the flag came out and they had to restart and it bunched them all up. The energy just went up like 10, I'm going to say decibels, which has to do with noise, but the energy just went way up, and it made it exciting, even though, they do a lot of virtual safeties and things of that sort. I'm glad they did not do that at COTA.
We did not see any of those. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah.
Her Bill from Shelby's thrilled to see that we didn't have any virtual safety. Despises those.
He loves those.
Hey, Alex Palou, I don't know if you heard, took part in FP1.
He's an IndyCar, right?
He's an IndyCar champion.
That's right.
Yeah. Chip Ganassi racing.
Would have never known it.
Finished 17th. Seems he didn't get any time on the softs, but he had a very respectable outing in FP1. 4 rookies total took place or 4 additional rookies took place in Friday practice. Schwartzman for Ferrari finishing 16th. He did have a run on the soft tires. Pourchaire, and I'm sorry, I know I'm torturing that. For Alfa Romeo finishing 18th. Logan Sargent 19th. And Antonio Giovinazzi inexplicably had a test run with Haas on Friday. And I say inexplicably because we have a 2-year history of Antonio Giovinazzi running for Alfa Romeo. So it's not as if we don't know what he's capable of. Unfortunately, what he was capable of here was causing further crash damage to the Haas, budget cap, adding to, what's already been a substantial crash season. In the words of your friend there that we spoke to on the hill, he said that Gunther was not in the best of moods.
He was not so pleased. I asked him on Saturday, I said, how's Gunther's mood today? And he goes, oh, it's pretty good. And I said, and he goes, yesterday, not so good.
Yeah.
And he was referencing, obviously, the incident that happened. He said there was a lot of language going on in there, and he was not very pleased with damaging the car, which you can expect. Right. It's a very expensive sport, and you don't want to damage cars, and you don't want to have rookies, right? We're calling him a rookie, putting him in the rookie column that wrecks the car. So happy to see Palou out there, being an IndyCar fan. I was surprised in how McLaren he was.
Can I hold on to that for 1 second?
Yeah. So, all right, let's move. We'll talk about it.
Well, I want to ask you about that. Here's what I'm going to say to you, and I'm going to let you.
You already know the answer. I told
our listeners and friends that what we talked about. I hope we have a good weekend.
That's what Palou said. Hope we, the team, we all inclusive, have a good weekend.
And who was he referring to?
McLaren.
Yeah, and that kind of stuck out to you. Tell me why.
He had more. Well, he's under contract with Chip Ganassi Racing. So that ship sailed, man. He's gone. Like I saw it on the screen. He was interviewed on track. I don't think anybody saw it outside of those that were at the facility. So in the on all the TV screens and the whole place, him and Pato were being interviewed, and he talked about we, the team, and hope we have a great weekend. So glad to be here, which is good. He's living his dream. I don't blame him for doing that. At the same time, he's under contract with Chip Ganassi Racing, and I don't know how that. how the boss would feel about that. I guess it is
He's
what it
allowing
is.
it,
Yeah.
so he's going to have to swallow it. So, but yeah, it is. It's interesting to see how he's got a foot in two different camps like that.
It's very bizarre. Yeah, very bizarre.
So,
And
yeah,
wish him the best. I will see what comes up with the IndyCar season with Palou and what kind of transpires. But I can't. I wouldn't be happy if I was the owner of the Chip Ganassi Racing. If I was that guy, I would be livid. But somehow they worked the deal when
they
they
allowed it. Yeah,
went through the whole contract scenario, and it is what it is, I guess.
yeah. So we know that Palou will not be stepping into the seat that is going to be vacated by Daniel Ricciardo. We know that's going to Oscar Piastri. And a lot of talk this weekend about Daniel Ricciardo and IndyCar and all this other nonsense. Tim, do you really care that Daniel Ricciardo doesn't want to come to IndyCar because ovals scare him?
No, it's his
Me
own
neither.
prerogative. That's totally
Yep.
fine. I know people
And
have been
I think I
bashing him for it,
tweeted,
but
yeah, I tweeted Champ Web that was like, and I'm paraphrasing, and I'm not smashing Champ Web because I do enjoy their stuff. But they were like, well, we should change the marketing campaign, and we should say that you got to be a man, or whatever it is that they were trying to say, right? Like, this is for a different kind of driver, and you got to have nerves or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, so what are we doing? We're shaming him into coming to IndyCar? No, it's not going to work. Or, what are we trying to accomplish here by doing that? Right?
yeah,
That so unnecessary, and the energy is just not worth it
maybe get some
because it
likes.
isn't
I
going
don't
to do
know.
anything. Honestly, if you want to do anything to help with the IndyCar thing, if that's even a possibility that he would come here. And I'll tell you what, the race podcast,
Mm-hmm.
they talked about him coming to IndyCar, that it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him to come because it's still a very respectable series. It's still a top level series. And they didn't say it, but it's kind of how I read it was, or heard it from them was, it's not like he's going back to F2 or F3,
Mm-hmm.
so, it still would be a top level tier. And hey, Grosjean came over here and didn't run ovals. Max Chilton came over here and didn't run ovals after a
Yep.
while.
Yep.
So if you don't want to run the ovals, don't run the ovals, but come on
Mm-hmm.
over and run the series,
Yeah, for sure.
and see what it's about, right?
Yep.
The competitiveness of it. If you don't want to run an oval, I don't blame you. Hey,
No.
look at Robert Wickens,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Ryan Briscoe had a nasty crash on an oval. I mean, there's been a lot
Yeah.
of nasty crashes on the ovals. And,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't want to run it, fine, don't. But what's funny is then you see people tweeting about him running in NASCAR. And it's like, well, that car is destroying people's careers right now. So I don't really know
Yeah.
that that's a better option.
Mm-hmm. It feels like a better one just because it's an enclosed car, but at the end of the day, when you look at the new car, it's not it's not been very
hospitable.
what's the word? Yeah, to the driver.
Not safe.
It's just,
No, it's just not safe.
oh, yeah, not at all.
Do you care? No. Do I care?
I just hope the
No.
horse if he
I'd like
comes,
him to come.
bring horse the
Yeah,
horsey or
because you
whatever
love the
horse.
horse gag.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
the horse bit.
Ooh,
played it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's just face it. Can I say this? He was terrible on Sunday.
Oh,
Terrible.
rotten. But he recognized it too, right? He doesn't know how he could continue to continue on this way, right?
Terrible, like so bad. And so when you have all the antics leading up to a race, and then you do what you do, I was going to use a word that I can't use. You really. You just got to do away with that stuff, in my opinion, and you got to refocus on what the task is at hand. I love what it brings to the sport, but you got to be performing at the same time. Otherwise, it just it looks bad, in my opinion.
You know what? So thanks for bringing that up. So we're not recent fans to Formula One, so none of this is news to us. I would say that there's a marked difference in attitude and seriousness, right? Maturity. I don't want to say maturity, but maturity, I'll say it here, right? Don't want to, but it's the word I'm coming up with right now. Maturity, attitude, seriousness, and Lando Norris. And look where his game has gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Daniel Ricciardo still has the shtick, right? The horse and the gags and the goofing and, to be the goofy guy, kind of loose and everything.
It's fine if you can bring it on Sunday, but if you can't bring it, then you can't do that. It just.
Do you think something like that is also maybe impacting his preparation or what he's bringing to the game?
I can only assume based on results. So I'm going to say yes, but not necessarily. You got to put a lot of effort into that unless you got a PR staff that says this is what we're going to do. It's got to be some type of focus. You just don't get a VIP pass for a horse 2 days before the event. Go, this is what I want to do. It's got to be all planned and prepared.
I love how the VIP pass for the horse sticks in your
Thursday
throat,
only.
The way it does. It's like anybody could create a pass, dude. It's not a VIP pass for the horse. It's part of the
legit.
gag.
I think
it's
it looked
part
legit
of the gag.
based on the one I was looking at on the turn one. So who knows? Oh gosh.
Oh,
I think I tweeted I own a horse too. Let's move on, right? Like I've got a horse. Whatever. Like it's no big deal. But I like it. But you can't do that and then do what you do on Sunday. Is you gotta. It's
trundle around on the 17th.
Yeah.
Driver market, right? Logan Sargent set to join Williams in 2023 if he can gain the necessary super license points. All signs point to the fact that he will be able to achieve this. He has to do some FP1 outings without issue to earn a point, and then he needs to finish 6th or better in the championship, and currently he sits 3rd. So,
and you hate that idea.
I do, because anything can happen. Anything can happen here. What if he has an accident, breaks a leg, breaks an ankle?
What does that have to do with anything? If he breaks an ankle,
he ain't going to get his points. He's going to finish the season, won't get his points, and then what happens then? Where's Williams go?
Yeah, I don't know, but at the end of the
cut
day,
down the tire. Anything could happen, man. There's too much on the line there, and I could look it up. I don't have my regular setup. Championship is close, even though it says okay, he's got to finish 6th and he's sitting in 3rd. It's close. If memory serves, it might be 9 points.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not wishing anything, no harm on these drivers. You and I are fans. We don't want to see drivers harmed by any stretch, but dude, that's tight. Anything can happen. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if something did happen, if they would grant him an exemption.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine how the IndyCar fans would be burning down.
Yes.
Twitter right? Formula One nuts. Twitter. Yep. They'd be in a rage.
Won't do it for her.
What was the Twitter rage earlier this weekend? I don't remember. We were talking about
Twitter rage earlier this weekend.
Twitter rage. Yeah.
It had to do with the ovals, I think, wasn't it? No, it had to do with Brad Pitt.
Oh yeah, Twitter rage because Brad Pitt snubbed Martin Brundle.
Yeah.
Which I think is baloney. I think if you're on that pit road, even though you're on the list that says leave him alone, you're fair game. And you're a movie star. And you're somebody who's doing a movie about Formula One. You're fair game. Get over it, dude.
Yep.
Like I told you, Dan Maldonado, PR Enterprises, I would have had an answer for Martin Brundle. And there would be no Twitter rage. And it would have been fine.
On our car ride back to Houston.
Answer.
So folks, we flew into Houston and drove over to Austin just because it just made sense. We try to save a buck here and there. But anyways, we had a long conversation in the car about it because it's a 2.5 hour ride, maybe 3. Everybody says it's 2, but it's not. But we talked about
math is math. 2 hours is still 2 hours, even though it feels longer. 2 hours are still 2 hours.
Well, we had to eat more barbecue because we couldn't get enough barbecue for the time we were down there. But yeah, Dan's PR company would be very helpful for Brad Pitt. So Brad, if you're listening, dial him up.
I can help you. Say. Trust me, I can help you. Finally, there's no easy segue into this news, of course, but Dieter Mateschitz, who is the co-founder of Red Bull Energy, and he is also the man who saw fit to rescue both the Jaguar Formula One team when Ford decided to put that up for sale, and Minardi, turning them into Red Bull Racing and AlphaTauri, respectively. Obviously, AlphaTauri at that time was Toro Rosso, which is the time for Red Bull. He's also responsible for resurrecting what is now called the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Red Bull branding is seen on all kinds of motorsports and outdoor sports and sports activities, not just Formula One. And they were also sponsors of IndyCar with Eddie Cheever and
they were,
Eddie Cheever, and they were in NASCAR for a while too. And if I'm not mistaken, Gunter Steiner was part of that NASCAR team. And tributes have come in from all over motorsports, including, the competitors up and down the Formula One grid.
Mm-hmm.
In my business, what I do full time every day, my day job, Red Bull is like Kleenex, right? It means energy drinks. It's Red Bull and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's another drink on the market that does a pretty good job of putting up a fight, but they are not Red Bull.
Yep. That's a good point.
So they still own the market. But think about the vision that Dieter Mateschitz had, along with Dr. Helmut Marko and, Christian Horner, to bring what is effectively a non-constructor. They're not a car manufacturer. They're a energy drink brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're a beverage company
mm-hmm.
to Formula One, and they have found periods of domination against the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes. First with Sebastian Vettel, and what looks to be today a new dynasty coming with Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing. So, hats off, applause, rest in peace.
Yep.
And, thank you for everything you do for motorsports, everything that was done for
motorsports, extreme sports, you name it, it's everywhere. And I had a Red Bull on the walkout.
Yes, you did. Your first.
My first Red Bull ever. And I drank about a quarter of it. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. I'll just say that. And you can take that how you want.
Yeah. I am no stranger to energy drinks. I'm a big fan of caffeine, as you know.
My first energy drink ever.
Brewed that pot of coffee when we get back to the house on Saturday, right?
Oh my gosh. It's like 10:30 at night, and we've got a full pot of coffee ready to go.
It was happening.
I'm
just
my
defense. I'm a little older
scarfing
now, so I can't
cookies. And you're drinking coffee. That's what happens at the house.
Yeah. Hey, a little bit more news here, wrapping up this episode. More driver news. IndyCar. Let's move on to IndyCar. So, Tim, are you buying that Nicky Latifi is in the mix for the number 48 at Ganassi?
No, I'm not.
Look at that look on your face. What's with the smirk? Why the smirk?
I just don't want it to happen, so I'm saying no.
Why not?
Personal preference. I just don't want to take somebody who's failed as much as they have in F1. I can say that, right? And come over to Ganassi and the top team, right? One of the top two teams. And
I would give anything to fail up to Formula One drive. But go ahead.
You would give anything
to fail up to a Formula One drive? Sure.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. You had mentioned that the test that they were supposed to do didn't happen. So something else is going and something else.
That's why I don't buy it that he's coming. I don't see Chip Ganassi just taking a check and putting him in that car just for the sake of keeping the car. But if he does test and they're able to come to agreement, he doesn't want to run those ovals. Right. We think that the wisdom here is that Jimmy Johnson would like to come back and run some of those ovals, right? He ran very well at Texas. He did well at Iowa, and who wouldn't want to run Indianapolis if you've got a car sponsor in your pocket, or if you've got a sponsor in your pocket. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned, I guess, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Also, some shocking news. We talked about it over the weekend, but Marshall Pruitt wrote recently in his October silly season update that NTT Data is going where, Tim?
It's going to
McLaren.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about this. You know what I was thinking about when you mentioned this? We talked about this while we were being herded around like cattle. It was right in turn 2. We had this conversation at COTA. I'm shocked. Totally shocked.
Shocked.
Shocked. It's amazing that NTT is going to go over.
The whole Alex Palou drama was happening behind the scenes, and NTT was in the pocket.
Totally.
Of that, along for the ride.
Yes, they were. They're moving over.
Shocked at that.
And they're going to go over, I think, come next year, not 2020.
They're coming over next year, yeah. And they're going to be on
for a little bit, but I think like permanently, they're going to go over all the full time for Darryl McLaren.
So your favorite livery is not going to live on because you love that blue NTT data card.
It's the best. Yeah, it will not.
I disagree, and we all know I'm right. More IndyCar news. Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward are the lone testers now for McLaren F1. Does this, Timmy, spell an end to one Colton Herta's F1 aspirations?
Yes.
I would suspect that that the current chapter of Colton Herta running in Formula One is coming to a close. And I think the next chapter will be written depending on if Andretti's able to get his expansion.
Yeah, or if Red Bull's interested, right? That's the other.
Maybe.
Because
AlphaTauri just had a spot there, and they wanted to put him in there, and they didn't get their exemption. So
that could still happen. I think his aspiration, he's not going to go with McLaren. There's no chance of that. But he just signed that extension with Andretti, and I'm sure it says that he can leave. And we assume there's some out clause there, right? Just to be fair to the Herta gang, if you will.
Right.
So, I said yes. It means it's over. It's over for now. We'll see what happens.
Right. New stadium for the Tennessee Titans may disrupt IndyCar in 24-25. I guess the only thing that comes to mind for me here is we're going to get a new track layout, hopefully.
Oh, thank the good Lord.
Right? Yeah. So I obviously the organizers are anxious to continue that race and, will do what they need to do to make sure that they can continue on. So even if they have to make some adjustments based on, construction, they're working on it. They already know that this thing is out there.
Does this open up to the oval for a couple of years?
I heard that, right? Like, would you move to the Nashville Oval? I don't know. I mean, like we talked about so many times this past week, anything's possible.
Yeah, I'm over the bridge, so that bridge can go away, in my opinion.
Yeah, you said that.
People still like it, I guess. I just think it disrupts the car too much under braking as well as acceleration going there. I just don't like it, but that's just me.
Yeah. Tim, did you see this? Former IndyCar and Champ Car drivers are lined up for a Mexican Grand Prix support race.
No, this is new.
You did not see this?
Where was this that you saw this?
This is motorsport.com. Mexican Grand Prix organizers have revealed the full entry for the Legends Cup support race, which features a dozen former Champ Car and IndyCar drivers. Entry led by 5 Mexican drivers who raced during the Champ Car era: Adrian Fernandez, Mario Dominguez, Michel Jourdain Jr., Roberto Gonzalez, and Luis Diaz. And they're going to be joined by Paul Tracy, Mark Blundell, Tim, Alex Tagliani, Oriol Serbia, Max Pappas, friend of the show.
What?
Loosely friend of the show. Bruno Junqueira and Casey Mears. So in celebration of the Champ Car event that used to take place at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
I did not hear this, but I am on their website now.
This is kind of a big deal. I'm anxious to see how this turns out. Identically prepared V8 cars, and there'll be a support race similar to some of the support races that you and I saw over this past weekend.
Yeah, we saw the Benetton car. It's like one of my favorites. But anyway,
exciting. Yeah.
No, I like that idea. That's pretty cool. It's the first I'm hearing about it. I'm glad you're a little more connected than I am when it comes to some of this stuff. But that sounds like fun. I'd love to see it.
One of these days, I'm going to be the executive producer of this show.
The executive producer
of this show, because I come up with little gems like this.
Yeah, you aren't you already that? I think you're already there.
Yeah,
No, that's cool. We'll see how it goes down. I guess we won't see any coverage of it, but you got to be there to see it. So if anybody's going, we'll
I'm
see.
sure we'll see something on Twitter, right? Some
Yeah,
Twitter rage when Paul Tracy bulldozes his way through the field,
and then doesn't talk to the announcer.
Right.
Yeah.
Wrapping up NASCAR news, believe it or not, Bubba
We got
Wallace
NASCAR
suspended for one race by NASCAR. Tim, this is a big deal. And
Well,
some
did you see what he
suggested this
did?
wasn't harsh. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
You can't do that.
Do that. No, can't do that.
You can't drive. You can't use your car as a weapon, number one,
Nope.
and then get out of your car and use your fist as the next weapon.
Was a one race suspension good enough? Or was it too much?
No, I think it's fine. I don't think if one race is fine. I think it sets the tone. I think NASCAR has needed to set the tone for a little while now. So I think everybody's going to check themselves at the door and go out and race. And he even put a public apology out there, which he needed to for his sponsors and everybody else, the team, because it was quite embarrassing. So I think it's right in line. Let him go back out after the one race suspension. So, but yeah, I woke up to that one day and I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Kurt Busch leaving full-time driving. Has this concussion sustained from this new car. And he's not been able to recover to an extent that would allow him to get back into
that's pretty big
driving. And it's a big deal. I'm not a fan. I'm not taking a shot at someone who's down, but I'm not a fan. And I'm only saying that from the perspective of what I'm going to say next. You hate to see something like this. If you're a professional racing car driver and you're in a competitive team and you're having a good season and you know you're going to have a couple of good seasons left in you before you decide to go out on your own, you don't want to see what is potentially an engineering problem with a new car prematurely in your career because you cannot recover from concussion.
Yeah.
Your youngest son plays football. Has he had any concussions?
He has not.
So my son, believe it or not, swimmer, sustained a concussion during a practice swim. He was a backstroker. My son did backstroke. Did see they'd taken down the flags because they were training at a different pool, and they had taken the flags down, so he didn't know where he was at relative to the edge of the pool, but right into the side of the pool, full speed. It took him, and he was a very healthy young man at the time, 16 years old. It took him a good 3 months to recover from that.
Yeah.
Right. Light sensitivity, nausea, dizziness, dizzy spells and things like that. And we're not talking a 40-year-old man, right, who surely has had other concussions in his life through some of these accidents and things that he's sustained, having trouble recovering from them. So
yeah, I'm glad we finally come around as this just humans society, right, to go this is an issue, right, and it needs to be addressed, and we take precautions every day when something happens with somebody. So it's unfortunate here for Kurt, for sure, and obviously for your son and what he went through. We had a similar situation with a neighbor who just went through one on a freak accident, and he's still trying to recover from it. And he's a young 16-year-old kid. So
I think it was Dale Jr., right, that really brought concussion awareness to NASCAR.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Biggest name in the sport. And he wasn't, afraid to say, this just ain't happening. And I'm not going to put the long-term health of, my life in jeopardy just to continue to do this, and family, husband, and many, many other things that he wants to do. And I'm sure the fact that Dale Sr. never got to do some of the things that I'm sure that he wanted to do in his life probably fed into some of that as well. I can't.
Yeah, and we could go down the road of NFL football and all that.
Look at. Sure.
Yeah, we won't do that here. But
at the end of the day, something has to be done with this new car, and I'm certain that NASCAR is working on it. And they certainly have the horsepower, no pun intended, to figure out an engineering solution here between Toyota, Chevy, Ford, in NASCAR. I'm sure they'll be able to figure something out. It just seems it's too rigid. It's transferring a lot of energy to the driver, and that's not where it belongs. So
yeah,
that's all I got. I had a great weekend. I already said it, but I want to say it again because I want to underscore it. I had an incredible time hanging out with you and your son. I do appreciate you letting me tag along. I do appreciate the amount of barbecue that you allowed us to eat this weekend. And in your first Whataburger experience, I apologize that you got the extra mustard on your Whataburger. But
I asked for no tomato, and I think they said, well, this guy must love mustard. If he wants no tomato, we're not going to put any ketchup on it either, and we're going to load it with mustard. It's okay, though. It all works. No big deal. I had a wonderful time, too. I had a wonderful time. Actually, on my personal Instagram account, I put a post out today. It was good. I enjoyed every minute of it. Even enjoyed the company we had from others that we didn't know before we went there. And speaking of Alex, right? So it was good to just have people to hang out with. And I think you see that when you go to these events, and I think that's what it's about, just connecting with people that are around you and learning, why they're there, what their story is, how they got following Formula One or IndyCar, whatever it is. I think it's all about the fans in my perspective, because if you don't have the fans, if you don't have the fans, the sport will die.
Yeah, nothing. That's why Brad Pitt should talk to Martin Brundle.
Love it.
That's all I got. I enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us. So I heard something last week that suggested there are about 2.5 million podcasts out there. So we appreciate you choosing ours amongst the 2.5 million. And we hope that you'll leave us a review. For those of you that watch us on YouTube, we always get a generous amount of comments on YouTube.
Like the hat, please.
Yeah, kicking off with Mark, our YouTube super fan. So appreciate that.
We got a special surprise.
Another hat next time as well.
Special surprise next episode on the hats.
And we have that, and we are working on interviews. What I think is going to be an amazing guest who's going to help us with some insider perspectives on some things. And I'm very, very much looking forward to that. I'm thrilled that this person has agreed to come on the show. So we're just in the process of scheduling that, and we'll make that work out. So thanks for joining us. Continue to watch. Join us. Tell your friends about us. Every 2 weeks
from now.
Yep. 2 weeks from today, we'll be back. And thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Have a good night.